Greetings from LA, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, if you don't mind, I would very much like to continue on with our journeys, our discussions, our discoveries, and our explorations with respect to the recent releases made by the Criterion Collection relevant label or the line, which is referred to as JANUS Contemporaries. JANUS Contemporaries releases continue to be very strong in this year 2024 with its line of Blu-rays that started a year or so back. And so now, continuing on with our discussion of the Janus Contemporaries Blu-ray lineup, please allow me to refer to this film, which is described as being from the year 2023, and the name of the filmmaker is Neo Sora. And this is the work which is here regarding RYUICHI Sakamoto, Opus. This is the film which is described as being from the year 2023, and the name of the filmmaker is Neo Sora. And this is a Blu-ray, which is on the Janus Contemporaries lineup, again, part of the releases by the Criterion Collection and Janus Contemporaries Criterion channel in physical media format for 2024 of this film, which is RYUICHI Sakamoto Opus. This is the work Opus. How do I approach this discussion? I'm going to try to do it a little bit differently, perhaps. I'll try to make it. Let me just start and just see where it takes me, I suppose. But okay, I know of RYUICHI Sakamoto's work. I know it. I mean, I'm not an expert in his work. I'm not. I don't claim to know everything about his work, but I know he's very famous, and his music, whether it be early in his career or um, his film compositions, so a career that is quite legendary. Yellow Magic Orchestra, etc., and the Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, Last Emperor. One of my favorites is another Oshima directed film, which is called Gohato, and other works just spanning incredible life and career. With some works, music being very famous, quite ubiquitous, one can say. For example, in Japan, what one can say that the theme for Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence is it comes up quite often on television and programs, etc. So it's a very famous theme. It's just one of many famous themes by Sakamoto. So I know of Sakamoto's work, and I'm a great admirer of his work and presence. But I had no idea about. Oh, and I should say too that I'm making this film and I made this video in 2024, and of course, Ryuichi Sakamoto passed away rather recently, and so when I heard the news of the passing of Ryuichi Sakamoto, it was a world famous figure, and so the passing of a world famous figure is very noteworthy and newsworthy. So the news flash, when I caught it on in the news, I was very saddened by that news because, again, of how much I could say that his work meant to me, and how I felt that a lot of ways it was very ubiquitous and very beautiful and magical. Uh, so I knew about those parts, but I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea about this film, Opus. I had no idea about what it was. I'm not so well connected with contemporary releases unfortunately. So I tend to not know. I don't have all the news when it comes to releases. That certainly is the case for not knowing. I mean, I had no idea about Opus. All right, so that meant that I came into this Blu-ray watch quite unaware of what it was that would be in store for me when I'd watch this film, Opus. I had no idea what it was. But it had Ryuichi Sakamoto, and it had this word opus, and so there we go. And I played it, and I watched it, and I realized, right, it was. I understood fairly early on into the running time that this was a concert film. This was a concert film, and I then realized that this was not just a concert film, and not just a cataloging over the course of an hour, 30 minutes, hour 45 minutes or so. Not only was this Ryuichi Sakamoto on the stage or in a studio performing, I think it's 20 works on piano. He's not in front of a live audience, but he is there performing it, and it's being captured on film and captured with microphones, etc. But also done in this way that's moving in and out of the space, and the camera's seemingly interacting with the Sakamoto and looking in on his face and looking in on his fingers as he's performing, etc. So, but anyway, as I was watching the film, I realized this is a concert film, and I sat back and I watched and I listened, and I watched Sakamoto's performance, listened to these pieces, a number of which are I'm very familiar with. Again, for reasons that I cited early on in this discussion. But I was, by the end of my first watching of Opus, I found myself very emotionally affected by this. This is a beautiful work. This is a beautiful concert film, and again, I I I'm beginning to be a bit emotional just recalling this film. So, and I've seen it a number of times now, and but not enough. I have to watch it more, and so. But I guess how can I explain why I found this to be such a moving emotional experience for me? Well, I go back to my admiration for Sakamoto, Ryuichi Sakamoto. His works, many of which are very ubiquitous. I remember from a very early age. I didn't know the film. I mean, I must have been, I don't know how old, 3, 4 years old. I mean, my memories are very hazy, but I remember listening to the music that I was so beautiful. I didn't know what it was, and when I grew up a little bit later, I realized, oh, this is the theme from Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, and so and my mom loved Sakamoto's works, and she when she was alive, she would play the piano, and I have just these lovely memories of my mom playing musical pieces, and every so often I would hear work that I would discover later on was a work by Sakamoto, and some of the pieces I actually heard Sakamoto play during this. I think it's 20 works in Opus, so that was very cool. And that was also very emotional as well. And then realizing again, I had of course known about the passing of Sakamoto, but when I then later was watching this film Opus, and I was realizing that my goodness, this would have been filmed just a few months perhaps prior to Ryuichi Sakamoto's passing. So what that meant was, and I realized this is what could be said, I think, to be one of the final public performances, or perhaps the final public performance of Ryuichi Sakamoto, and playing his works in this way. And regarding the film in that way, I'm watching some of these performances. You know, Sakamoto's playing some very famous pieces, or they're all very famous. But just for instance, you know, he's playing maybe one example, and I see the close-ups of that the camera makes on, say, the fingers playing on the piano keys, or maybe the look on his face as he's really into the music that he's performing. And I realize that, my goodness, I'm not only watching a beautiful rendition of an artist's work or being performed, I'm also realizing that this is probably the last time that he is performing these publicly in this way, due to, again, I understand that he was very ill and he was battling cancer. And so one could see that he looked, and physically speaking, there is undeniable that there were moments where he looked quite frail. But then there were other moments that the music and his performance just was so overpowering that any types of frailness that could have been there seemed to be vanish in an instant, and you fall into the rhythms and the beauty of the music. And so, but that was a kind of those feelings engendered in me meant that this was a film that where I was watching the concert or one of the final or the final performance of Ryuichi Sakamoto, and that makes me very emotional um, to think about. And then also to compound that emotional reaction that I had, I go back to my own personal experience and my mom playing the piano. Uh, and I think about um, I think about again how much Sakamoto's music meant to her, and I think too about, oh gosh, I remember her playing the piano, but I'm never gonna listen to her play the piano again live because she's no longer here. And so, and again thinking back to those first moments uh, of my Sakamoto loving life, listening to, say, Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, not knowing it, and then, growing up hearing my mom play some of these works on the piano, but knowing that she's no longer here, too. That makes watching this film opus for me, again, all those elements combined together in watching this, really quite overwhelming. So I was, yeah, I wasn't prepared when I first put this in the player, not having seen it yet. I wasn't quite prepared for the emotional wallop that it would have in store for me, but it was certainly there. And so I think this is a grand film. It is a warm testament. It is a lovely tribute to the great artist Yuji Sakamoto from the filmmaker Neo Sora, who is the son of Ryuichi Sakamoto. So that makes it, that connection, once it becomes known, it also to the viewer, it also makes this film even, I mean, it makes it that much more powerful. I mean, it was already powerful to begin with, but it makes it that much more powerful. Um, and also, it was also a reminder of me too. I mean, I can't even imagine what the feelings must have been between father and son in terms of the creation of this project, let alone any other aspects of their lives. I can't even begin to imagine that. But I can't help but be reminded of my own father, who himself was battling cancer. He lost his battle many years ago, but he fought very strongly up to the end. But he wasn't a musician. He didn't play the piano like Sakamoto did. But my father was also. He fought his battle with a lot of strength and all the way up to the end. And I'm indirectly reminded of that when I realize the relationship between Neo Sora, the director of the film, and Ryuichi Sakamoto, the subject of the film. So that, therefore, is my quite roundabout way to say I am I am very taken with this film. I love this work very much. I'm not a musician. I'm not. I don't. I recognize some of the tunes, some of the works here by Sakamoto. I don't. I don't know all of them with a strong degree of, say, a confident familiarity. So it would have been nice. I think it doesn't show up until the end credits of this film, but there's actually a program notes where you can actually get all the titles of the 20 works that Ryuichi Sakamoto performs. You don't get it in any of the Blu-ray. It would have been nice if we could have had that, but that's not a knock on the film itself, or I understand why it wouldn't be included because it was already included in the end credits. But my point is that um, uh, I don't claim to know everything about the life and times and art of Ryuichi Sakamoto, and I'm still sitting here stunned, and I'm stunned just even trying to recall some of the scenes of when I find myself recalling and remembering some of the scenes of the film. I'm I'm quite it's very emotional. So and the way the film is made, it is a concert film. So there's a again, perhaps on paper, on its surface, maybe seemingly simple design in terms of the cinematic aesthetic. An artist in a studio with his piano performing, and it's being captured audio and also film visually. But there is so much poetry in some of the or in the choices of camera movement and technique. Sometimes the camera moves in quite slowly on the piano wire and the open lid. You can see sometimes Yamaha on the piano. Sometimes we see the shadow of Sakamoto that's against the floor there. We see the close up of his fingers that are that that are right there, very gently caressing the keys of the piano as he's performing. You see his face sometimes as he is performing. The emotional expression of his face as he's drawing out that final chord of a final work, it is very, very powerful. And again, just knowing that, or just being reminded that this is right, the final public performance in this concert film way, seeing how he is again emphasizing that last chord of this work that won't be performed again live in this way. It makes it really very powerful. So the camera work, I think, augments this very well, and also the choice of the black and white photography. The way that the music is captured is it's crisp and clean. It's lovely to listen to. So it's like you're listening to the album if you close your eyes, but you want to open your eyes because you also want to witness the beauty that is the Sakamoto performance. So um, yeah, this is great. This is a really great work. Again, on the basis of the fact that I knew nothing about it, the work itself, this is one of the great surprises for me this year, 2024. Very much so. Yeah, yeah, this is a good one. So this is the work um, which is Opus, Sakamoto's Opus. I should say before I can move on that this is the Blu-ray, so it's described as being from the year 2023 at 1.85 to 1 aspect ratio. It's black and white. It's Dolby Atmos availability. Um, for players with or for setups, home viewing setups with Dolby Atmos functionality available. So uh, yeah, yeah. I'm so sorry. I'm kind of going. Maybe I'm always garbled in my way of trying to talk about these movies. But perhaps I've even more garbled now talking about Opus. I don't want to suggest that's in any way my feelings about the film in a negative way. On the contrary, um, I was really just taken with it, which I think that feeling of being so sort of profoundly moved by it is made even more profound for me by the fact that I wasn't expecting to be this taken with it. So because I know nothing about the work opus, but now that I've seen it multiple times now, it's shaping up to be one of my favorite releases from 2024. For the reasons I've tried to articulate right now. But yeah, this is the work which is Opus. And so now I have the Blu-ray of Opus in the player behind me. So as you can see, this is it's got the JANUS logo on one side and a shot of Ryuichi Sakamoto at the piano in mid-performance, as it were, with the Ryuichi Sakamoto Opus. And then you have the movie, Meet the Filmmakers trailer, and then subtitles on and off function. So you have the option to play the movie, and then you have Meet the Filmmakers, which is approximately 16 minutes. This is a kind of one-on-one interview discussion with two people. So this is with Neo Sora, the director of the film, and then also Bill Kirstein, who is the director of photography. Because then and This is approximately 16 minutes. Neo Sora is the director of this film. He is the son of Ryuichi Sakamoto, and he explains this much. He explains this very early on at the start of this discussion. Um, this is another great one. He talks, Neo Sora does. He talks about how Ryuichi Sakamoto was very ill around 2022, and there might have been talks or discussions or hopes of perhaps maybe he might be able to tour one more time, a kind of concert tour, but due to his illness, again, he was battling cancer. And according to Neo Sora, this was not the first time in his life that he was battling cancer. So in that regard, it was very, very serious. I mean, it's always very serious, but the point is that it was taking a great toll on Ryuichi Sakamoto. And so that meant that Sakamoto was unable to tour and perform in front of an audience. But the idea was still there of still wanting to capture the performance spirit. And so it was proposed to make a film in the studio, which ended up being an NHK studio, where we'd have the piano and Sakamoto performing. So that is where the concert film that became Opus, the genesis of that was had. But what Neo Sora and Bill Kirstein mentioned here, which is a really interesting, I mean, they're all very interesting points, but one of the interesting points they do mention is that the choice was made early on about what is the philosophy behind this film, Opus? Is it going to be a shooting from the vantage point of the concert, or is the camera work going to be, is it going to be active participant? And so the idea was then to have this be a concert film, but it would be a film, according to Neo Sora, which meant that the camera would be active and moving towards Sakamoto or around the piano, or maybe given a certain distance, etc. So in this, using this kind of filmic language or grammar. And then also what that meant too was it was therefore important or paramount to have emphasis or the ability to capture the visual as well as the audio. You know, as a concert film, one of the primary objectives is to capture the sound with state-of-the-art audio equipment in order to capture this as a kind of live recording of this final concert, as it were. But what that meant to was the possibility that the studio in which this was recorded could have been really overcome with a lot of the audio equipment that would have made for great audio capture, but maybe not the most cinematic in terms of the visuals. So when it was decided to make this into quote unquote a film with an active participant of the camera, what that meant was that Neo Sora and Bill Kirstein and others took that to be that, okay, the visual will be that there will be the presence of audio equipment, yes, but it will also be arranged in a way such as to allow us, the viewers, via the camera to also see the piano and see Sakamoto, Ryuichi Sakamoto, perform. So that was a really interesting insight. I didn't really, very, very interesting insight. And so the visuals are really important. The audio is very important. And uh, and also there was an interesting choice for black and white photography, and also to show the piano. I think Neo sort of makes an interesting observation where the piano keys are, in a sense, black and white themselves. So I thought that was really cool. And also some of the interesting things was, again, the 20 song list, or the 20 work list. That would be the list of works. But what Neo Sora mentioned and Bill Kirsten mentioned was that the lighting scheme of this film, Opus, was that they were trying to match the light patterns as morning turns into day, turns into night, which is an interesting fact. I didn't realize that until I watched this and I saw the film again for a second time. And I realized, yes, indeed, it seems to be morning glow and then late morning into noon and afternoon and into evening. And so what that meant was that they wanted to have the 20 work list be arranged in a way to kind of match the feelings like morning, midday, afternoon, twilight, evening, etc., dusk, etc. So there had to be somewhat of a reshifting of the order arrangement of the 20 works, and also Neo Sora really wanted to have Opus be the final work on that list as a kind of means to show that there's a sort of hope that will be at the end of this. Even though we understand that this is the final public performance, there's still hope that we are left with as we leave the theater, in a manner of speaking, with the music of Opus still fresh in our ears and our minds and our hearts. So, ars longa vita brevis, right? So the, gosh, this is such a great film. Again, maybe, oh gosh, yeah, the 20 works that are there, you get the list at the end credits. So if you are curious as to what you've heard, you can always get that. I mean, you know, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mentioned before. Maybe if it would have been cool if we had, say, the track list part of the Janus Contemporaries Blu-ray. Just a very, very, very minor point, but yeah. This is really quite something. Neo Sora also mentions that they only had 8 days to shoot because, again, his father was not in good health, and so they could only shoot so long before he would grow tired very quickly. So they had to consider that as well. So yes, this is a great conversation with Neo Sora, the director, and also with Bill Kirstein, the director of photography. So please check it out if you can. It's approximately 16 minutes. And then the next supplement is a trailer, which I saw courtesy of this Blu-ray release. So there you go. And then the subtitle options is there as well. And then I should point out the simple fold-out with some pictures from the work Opus as well, with Sakamoto prominent in one of the sides there. And then we have the great essay, RYUICHI Sakamoto, Opus to Live, Michael Joshua Rowan, making some great observations, which were also made too by Neo Sora. I mean, there's a moment in the performance of one of the works, bibo no aozora, where there's some kind of unexpected turns with the performance, which is interesting. I forgot to mention too what Neo Sora said in the interview was that because this was a filmed concert, the concept was that this was a film, that it allowed for multiple takes. They could shoot it again and again. If they didn't get what they felt was a good take, they could redo it. You get a little sense of that revealed in some moments of watching Opus. So it's quite revelatory in that way. It's really quite wonderful. So, but anyway, that is the state of things when it comes to the insert there. So I'm going to put the insert back like so here. And so now I'm going to put the disc back into the case here. And so I'm putting that in there like so, and then closing this case, and now returning it here to this stand here as I close out this discussion. So yeah, I apologize if I'm a bit disheveled in terms of my reaction to this film as I'm trying to speak about it. But I again want to emphasize just how much this film has affected me and is affecting me. And I learned so much from the discussion from Bill Kirstein and Neo Sora, as well as watching the film and experiencing the work one last time. Although it wouldn't be for the last time, because we have all of his works that have been recorded that we can cherish, and of course this concert film we can also cherish, as well as other ways to enjoy and appreciate the films of the works and the films of and music of Sakamoto and the performances of Sakamoto. So and this is yet one way into that world. What a beautiful expression this is. I really love this. This is the work which is Opus. All right, my dear friends. So yes, that's it for now. And so until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well. And please keep on watching a lot of great movies. Please watch this if you can. Please watch this if you can. Sakamoto Opus by Neo Sora. Alright, so until the next video, my dear friends, stay strong, stay safe, and cheers.